everybody. Ali Khan here. Not sure if you know who I am. If you've been at this 3-day conference, now I get to do something really cool. I get to not just talk, but listen, which is rare for me, but it does happen. We're going to have a conversation with two really fantastic, dynamic people whose accolades are just really, it's crazy. It's the stuff of movies, and for all their successes, you're going to find out that they had a road to get to where they got, and the road keeps continuing. And I feel like that's something we all understand, because dealing with food allergies is it's an adversary, but there's a way to succeed. Really quickly, how I got to fare. I'm one of you guys. My son Heath has a peanut tree nut allergy. Found out the scary way. Got a phone call in 2013 from his daycare, and his eye had fallen shut, and I had to take him to the hospital right away. Found out he had a peanut tree nut allergy, and we've been dealing with that ever since. And it's a roller coaster. I mean, we have had crazy moments, close calls. One time, my wife literally sprinted from a restaurant to our hotel room to get the EpiPen. There have been moments where he's like, we were just at a wedding in February, and he's like, I think I just ate something with nuts in it. He got sick. We left the wedding. But thankfully, knock on wood, we're still here figuring it out. The conversation today is champion to champion, and we literally have two champions joining us. And it's about champions who overcome adversity. So really, let's just get into these two pretty amazing people. Rashad Jennings was in the NFL for 8 years. Is that correct, Rashad?
I tricked him for 8 years. Yes.
8 years. But the story didn't end there, folks. He won Dancing with the Stars. And now he is an incredible author with a kid series, plus his own personal autobiography, The If in Life. Is that how you describe that book?
Yes.
And this is just brief stuff. We're going to get into this. And Shannon Miller, this is cool. I've been saving this one. Ready for this nugget? The most decorated gymnast in U.S. history. And I'm going to tell you something. I grew up with Mary Lou Retton on the Wheaties box. So even though I have no business on a balance beam, Shannon Miller, what an honor. But you know what? A lot more happened after gymnastics too, and we're going to get into that. So let's start. I'm going to start with Rashad. This section is called Childhood to Champion. And for someone like yourself, I just glossed, I barely even touched it, but getting to the NFL is a big deal. But yours was an extraordinary journey. Let's go through your story from childhood to champion, Rashad.
Yeah, well, first, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm always humbled to be around people that accolades probably are way larger than mine, by the way. So Shannon is on with you. And this is great too. It inspires me because I get to hear other people's story. But mine's, I tell people a lot of times. I grew up in Forest, Virginia. It's a very small town. I tell everybody it's self-explanatory. Forest, Virginia. I grew up understanding animals before people, and still trying to understand people. It ain't working. So if y'all figure that out before me, let me know. And I was this overweight, chubby kid, asthma, glasses, 0.6 GPA at one point in time, a fifth string running back, saying that he wanted to play in the NFL. Right. So when you add all that up, there's nothing that's leading you to believe that I would click any of the accomplishments that I have thus far. And I struggled. Asthma was a big part of why I struggled. Reading comprehension deficit was another reason why I struggled academically. I was made fun of. I was picked on. I was bullied. I often, when I go talk to kids, I try to bring pictures of when I was in middle school, because when they see me now, they never would believe the words that are coming out of my mouth, that showing them and indicating that I'm really no different than them. When I go talk, to the YMCA and speak to kids that have illnesses or struggle with diabetes or struggle with asthma or other diseases, and letting them know that I used to have eczema, and I was born with a big birth birthmark on my face that we had to go to the doctors over and over to get rid of. Like, it's a lot of things that if you would have saw me in my adolescence, you wouldn't believe where I'm at now. And it happens all the time when I go back to my hometown. You know, the people that watch me grow up and become a man are still shocked. It's like, wait, and you know, I enjoy, you know, sharing the humility of where my beginnings are, because there's a big dash, right, between the age of 0 and 35 at this point in my life, and that dash really has created a lot of energy that I get to share with people. But I really truly struggled. I think I made some major turning points in my life was, you know, the relationship with my father. He drank a lot heavily, and he had diabetes. He ended up having to get both of his legs amputated. My father passed not too long ago in March, right before COVID really hit America strongly. And I had a chance to go back home and, you know, comfort my family and be there for them. And I got stuck there, and I jokingly tell everybody now that, you know, when I was at home, I didn't watch TV. I didn't do it. I didn't watch movies. And I stayed entertained because my mom gives me 4 or 5 episodes a day. She's a wild one. So I just allowed her to yell at me about nothing for no reason for the last 6 months and being a son. But, you know, through that relationship with my father and him having diabetes and me struggling with asthma, it made me really hone in to the importance of health and fitness and being full and whole and watching what you eat and creating habits and then allowing those habits to create you. You know, I was fortunate enough to have 2 loving older brothers that gave me an example of what it looks like to go to college, what it looks like to have a family. You know, I'm proud of where I come from. And when it comes to the health and fitness, again, you know, for myself, I was the inquisitive kid. And the turning point, I really think this gives a good visual of who I am and where the turning points happen in the health industry. So when I was in high school, I say this was my sophomore year, and my running back coach told me, "You are too fat and too slow to play running back." And you know, that hurt. It hurt, but I don't blame him. I remember I went home and I said, enough is enough. I'm tired of people telling me what I can't do. I'm gonna change my entire life. And so I did a self-experiment, uneducated version of myself. I took some food and I put it out on the counter. I took a glass of milk, I placed it on the counter. I took some cheese, I put it on the counter. I took some bread, I put it out on the counter. On the other side, I took some chicken, I put it out on the counter. I had a lettuce and a glass of water. And I let it sit there for 3 days. My mom's a neat freak, so she was flipping out, but she allowed me to do it. So I come back a couple of days later, and you can imagine what was going on. The milk had got really hard and thick. The cheese got really hard and thick, and the bread was really hard. Right. On the opposite side, the lettuce started to deteriorate itself. All right. They had the chicken started to deteriorate itself a little bit, and the water held as liquid. And so the uneducated version thought to myself, if this is what's going on the outside, that the milk is getting hard and thick, the cheese is getting hard and thick, the bread is remaining hard and thick, you know, on the opposite side, the lettuce is deteriorating, all these things are deteriorating, the whole is liquid. I decided that I was not going to eat anything that didn't deteriorate based upon the saliva hitting it or the air hitting it. So like a banana, you put a banana out, it's going to deteriorate itself. And so that's how I started eating. And I slowly but surely started to see a difference in my body, a difference in my skin tone, and a difference in my cognitive state. You know, I really stopped blaming people. I stopped making excuses for myself. I started taking ownership and responsibility. It was at a point where I transferred high schools in my junior year. I repeated my junior year. I took non-homeschool classes, non-summer school classes on top of the regular academics. And from there, that attitude of never blaming anybody or making excuses and truly starting to educate myself really kicked in. And I'm glad it did. at, at a younger age than in the latter.
Wow. There's something I wanted to touch in. I love that, it's interesting because we're talking about food allergies. We're talking about food. We're talking about that which sustains us. It's very interesting that you found so much change in your life. Cognitive really stuck out to me because you made dietary changes. But I have to ask you this. You took ownership, and I get that. That's something we're definitely going to dig into, explore. What I'm curious about is you have all these underlying issues, your weight, asthma, but you're still playing football. Let me tell you something. Ali Khan didn't play football ever. In 7th grade, it was like, Duke Khan, you want to play contact or flag? And I was like, soccer? You know what I mean? Like, still chose to go there. And you got to the point where that coach said, you're too fat, you can't do it. But you still put yourself there. Tell me about what that mentality was there, too, because it sounds like there was always something else. Look, asthma, come on. Asthma and weight, you could have quit football way before sophomore year. What kept you in the game, so to speak, pardon the pun, that long?
Yeah, so what kept me in the game, man, truly is I have a very, 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 very unique relationship with my pops. So when I was 13, I was hospitalized because of my asthma. And, I don't know if anybody has asthma that is listening, but you know what it feels like to suffer that strangle, being underwater and can't find any breath. Like that's what it truly feels like. And when I was in the hospital, my peak flow only went a centimeter. So I'm really struggling for my next breath, much less what would I do.
Peak flow, what does that mean?
So a peak flow is a measuring instrument to show your pressure of your breath. And you blow through when you have asthma to show the doctors how strong your lungs are and the capacity to breathe. And it only moved a centimeter, indicating that I really, was fighting for breath. And so I'm hooked up to tubes and in the hospital, and I'm in the hospital for about a week. And, again, my father used to drink and smoke heavily at this period in time. I have 2 older brothers, and they're 10 and 13 years older than me, right? I was a whoops, here we go again, baby. And, so my brother saw a different father than I did with that age gap difference. He was in the military, was in the Air Force. He struggled. He went through some dark times. And so I grew up with that. And so, again, he used to drink and smoke heavily. We don't have the best relationship. He wouldn't take me out to play ball or have the conversation about the birds and the bees. He just existed. And I remember being in the hospital. This is to answer your question. I remember being in the hospital, and the doctors went up to my father and said to him, "Sir, you really have to stop smoking around your son. It's triggering his asthma." And, he told the doctor, he obliged, he said, sure. And sure enough, when we get out the hospital, I come back home, my mom we redid the ventilation system and we would have to check foods and all kinds of stuff. I was bad off. And my dad would start to smoke outside. About 2 weeks later, he started to smoke back inside the house again. And it was one particular day that I was downstairs in my room and I could smell the smoke seeping through the vents because my dad was upstairs smoking. And I remember putting a pillow over my face and I walked upstairs and I knocked on his door. And I said, "Hey, Dad, can you stop drinking and smoking and be there for me?" And he took a puff of his smoke. He took a sip of his drink. He looked at me and he said, "Rashad, what you want to do when you get older?" Now, this is the first time he asked me anything serious. So a part of me is extremely excited to tell him, but the other part I can see that he could care less. He's saying it in an arrogant way. Yeah. But regardless, I take my chance as a 13-year-old kid. I look at him, I say, "Dad, I want to play running back in the NFL." The little kid's dream. He took a puff of his smoke, sip of his drink. He looked at me and he said, "Rashad, do you think you'll be able to make it to the NFL without drinking or smoking yourself?" Like basically, who are you to ask me in my own home not to drink or smoke? And I looked at him with tears in my eyes, and I said, "Dad, just to prove you wrong, I'm never going to do it." And I'm 35. I've still never drank alcohol a day in my life. I've never smoked a day in my life. I made it to the NFL, and literally the anger and urge that I had just to prove my dad wrong made me a healthy person, gave me motivation. And because of that, because of him watching his little knucklehead kid prove him wrong, he ended up quit drinking and smoking himself, which prolonged his life to the point where it did, because the doctor said he wouldn't last long. So we in a weird way, we feel like we saved each other's life, and because of that, that's where my motivation comes from. It's because I always wanted to prove my father wrong, and that created such a strong love and an endearment between us.
You know, there's sometimes you just hear a story and you just feel like you're there. Wow. Shannon.
You're gonna ask me to speak after that.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? I have had to do that myself, and you realize we're all here for a reason. And by the way, most decorated gymnast in U.S. Olympic history. I think this is pretty fair, but something tells me, I just want to, as someone who appreciates sport, love movies about sport, you kind of have this thing as us in the peanut gallery, us in the audience at an athletic event, when you see a champion that, when they were young, they had this glimmer of talent, and some coach or someone sought that out and was like, "You've got the skills, kid. We want to take you to that next step." And the more I hear stories about athletes, basically comes down to this: natural talent only gets you so far. It only gets you so far. So you won all these Olympic medals. Something tells me it just wasn't because you were really good at 4 years old on a balance beam. So how did you win all those medals?
Oh my goodness. Well, I started gymnastics when I was 5. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I was one of those kids that had boundless amounts of energy. I wanted to do everything that my sister, who's 2 years older, everything she wanted to do, I wanted to tag along and try to do it better. So I'm not sure she was really excited about that. But one day, my parents decided that we just needed to stop jumping on the furniture, stop trying things in the backyard, and get into an actual program. But they didn't know anything about the Olympics or even gymnastics. It was just, what can we do to keep them busy? And they called a couple of places nearby, and we basically went to the first place that called back. And it was a gymnastics gym, kind of like a YMCA, just had a recreational program. And I went for an hour a week. It wasn't any big deal, but I fell in love. And for me, growing up, and people that have followed my career know, I was extremely shy growing up, painfully shy. To do this would have sent me just crawling into a corner. To be able to talk to people, that was a skill I really learned later in life. But I think for me, being in the gym, I could work, I could challenge myself, I could try to do these exciting skills. I didn't have to talk in front of people. I could block everything that was going on around me. I could block it all out, which ended up being an extreme asset in gymnastics when you're standing on a 4-inch wide balance beam in front of thousands of people. So I think for me, I kind of fell into the right sport for me, for my body type, and I loved it. And I give great credit to my parents and my coaches for helping me understand that I didn't have to place limits on myself. It was all about, if you're willing to work hard enough, then set your goal, work toward it, and anything is possible. Do not look for all the reasons why you can't succeed. You're too short, you're too skinny, you're not talented enough. Stop looking for the reasons why you can't succeed and start focusing on the reasons why you will succeed. And I think for me, coming back years later, I'll never forget my coach. He was doing an interview one day, and this was towards the end of my career, and this reporter asked him, how was it to coach Shannon Miller? And he kind of indicated it must have been pretty awesome, because I was so wonderful. And my coach was very quick in his explanation that no, I was certainly not his most talented athlete. I wasn't his most talented athlete even in that gym in Oklahoma, I wasn't that powerful. I wasn't very strong. I wasn't very flexible. I didn't have complete natural talent. Like you see some athletes just pick up skills so quickly, and I didn't have that. But then he said, but I've never coached a girl who worked harder than Shannon. And he talked about how I'd come in the gym, didn't matter if I was sick as could be. I would stretch for a few minutes before he'd send me home to get well. He'd say, I'd ask her to do 50 push-ups. She'd do 55, run 10 laps. She'd do 12. He said for a while, I couldn't figure out if she was really hardworking or if she just couldn't count. But for me, it was that understanding of I am not going to get anywhere unless I get in there and I'm the hardest worker in there every single day. And I think having my parents kind of, I guess, condition our mentality to understand that, it's not going to be easy. This is not a piece of cake, whether it's homework, whether it's chores, whether it's a full twisting double back. No, it's not going to be easy. But the expectation is that you go in and you give it 100%, not win, not be perfect. Just, go out and give it your best. And that means in the small moments just as much as in the big moments. And I think, today talking, one of the things that I was thinking about was, the idea that so many people see Rashad when he's at his finest moment, and they see me in that gold medal moment. And those are great memories, and they're great kind of moments. But the moments that mattered most are those moments that they're not on Instagram. Nobody's watching. The judges aren't there. The TV cameras aren't there. It's when you're in the gym and you're just doing the work every single day. And for folks that have food allergies, and I know that my son has several friends with severe food allergies, and it's inspiring to watch not only the parents deal with it on a day-to-day basis, but the children and how knowledgeable they are at such a young age and protecting themselves and really taking that on. But understanding that it is a day-to-day moment. It's not getting ready for kind of one big moment just because there's a party coming up or Halloween or something like that. Yes, those are big moments, but it's also what do we do every day to kind of have that win. So it's really incredible. I think for me, my journey has had the ups and downs of kind of the typical injury and difficulties. I heard constantly after my first Olympic Games in 1992, but before that Olympic Games, I was too young. I wasn't experienced enough. You'll have your chance. Just, keep working on it, keep competing, and maybe you'll get there. Well, then I made the team in 1992, and it was almost immediately I was over the hill for the next games. I needed to make room for the next group of athletes coming up. And I feel like you're constantly finding the reasons why you won't succeed. People are telling you, and oftentimes we tell those things to ourselves. And I think the mindset needs to be, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be really, really hard sometimes, but what are the reasons why I will succeed? And I think that really benefited me later in life in my battle with cancer, and kind of reverting back to some of that competitive mentality, some of that gold medal mindset that I learned through sport that gave me confidence. It gave me this understanding of goal setting skills, the importance of teamwork and positive mental attitude, and really trying to commit myself to something each and every day. And I think those are lessons you learn through sport, but they last a lifetime, and they really do make a difference in your day-to-day life.
Something, and you already jumped into the segue of the next major chapter of your life is when you were diagnosed with ovarian cancer. But I did want to bring something up that's interesting, because I feel like Rashad, he talked about his brothers who supported him, his dad that was kind of a mixed bag there, right? That was, there was perhaps without intention something that did inspire you. But, your parents did take you to gymnastics once a week. And I can't help but think, and also as a parent, like navigating all this food allergy stuff, you got this work ethic, like what was the relationship like with your parents? Because let's face it, like, this is a lot of work. Like taking back into soccer, I'm really? This, that. I mean, like extracurricular. It's a
It's
job.
a big deal.
Yeah.
I have a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old right now. So it can become just in your car all the time, every day, very quickly. I was very fortunate. Both my parents work full time, but my dad's an educator. He teaches physics at a college in Oklahoma, and so he had a little bit more lenient schedule. So I went to public school growing up, and I would go to school, and he would pick me up afterwards, and we would do homework in the car on the way to gym. And for many years, it was about a 45-minute drive one way just to get to the gym. But we would get all my homework done on the way there, and then I'd work out for 4 or 5 hours. This was probably between 10 years, at about 10 years old, 9 or 10, I was working out 4 to 5 hours a day. And I know it's hard to believe because I look at my kids now and I think, wow, how in the world was I even getting any sleep? But I loved it. I loved going. Not that every day was easy. And I think they just wanted to try to support me in that. And again,
Right.
They didn't really know about this Olympic thing. It was not something we ever really talked about. We always talked about kind of the next event. So can I make it to the state competition? That was a really big deal. And my coach made me sit out the first year that I was there. He said, you're not ready. You need to keep training. And there was a lot of me trying to stay up with the older girls in the gym and being really disappointed when I couldn't. And I think that's maybe what inspired me to keep going, because I would see how hard they worked, and I would see when they brought home trophies, and I wanted to do that, and I wanted to be able to get to that next skill. But I think my parents kind of, not really through their words, but through their actions,
Right.
really showed me what it was like to work so hard every single day. I'm one of 3. I'm the middle child. And my mom, she worked 9 to 5 every day. I never saw her before school because she was already left. She'd already left for work. And I saw her at 9 o'clock at night. But we have a great relationship, and she always made me feel like she was right there with me, and always there with a supportive word. Even before that final beam routine at the Olympics in 1996, my final routine, my final 90 seconds of my Olympic career. And I was so nervous for that moment. I had missed during the all around, stepped out of bounds, lost any chance of a medal that night. The next event was vault, and I landed flat on my backside, which you guys can all relive through YouTube. Thank you. And then I had balance beam left, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified. What if I fall? What if I fail? What if I let everybody down? I mean, this is in Atlanta. Everyone is watching. I am wearing my red, white, and blue uniform. I'm representing something so much bigger than myself. And what if I mess up again? And I remember that night she talked to me, and I vented to her. And at one point she just stopped and she said, let me just ask you one question. Have you done the work at other competitions and training? Have you done the work? And I said, yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't always get it right, but I always do the work. And she said, I know. And that's why I also know you can walk into that arena, head held high, confident in the fact that you have done everything you could possibly do up until this moment to get it right. And after that, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But you know you did everything that you could. So get out there and remember to appreciate and enjoy the moment. And I think those words were what really helped me remain, I guess, maybe balanced, but also in the moment, and understanding that, you know, whether I fall or I don't fall, that's not what this is about. Yes, people will remember that, but I've done the work. I did everything that I could, and it allowed me to kind of leave that stress at the door and just go in there and enjoy that moment.
You know, I think it's interesting as parents, like, you know, what you started with, which was interesting, which was they were just there. They were there for you. They took you to the practices, and it's amazing to have the moment that you had with your mom to say, to have those right words. But I can tell you, I think, you know, as parents, right, you know, we don't know what we're doing half the time. We just do what we think seems right. But, with this adversity of food allergy, I think it's important to understand that, you don't always think about gymnastics as a team sport, but every sport's a team sport because it takes a team, your family, your coaches who support you to get through your endeavor. And I think this, and with this adversity of food allergy, it's your loved ones, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, like a teacher, whoever is there for you, who's aware of this adversity. I think it's important to remind our kids that, they're not alone and through all this stuff, through the frustration. You started to bring it, talk about this. I think it's a perfect opportunity, Shannon, just keep going. Let's talk about what happened after gymnastics that became your next major mountain to climb, and that's cancer.
Well, I think kind of the road to that next journey started kind of like Rashad. I kind of had this moment of clarity regarding my health and wellness, and that came after I retired from sport. I really didn't have to think about caloric intake during gymnastics. I had to just get as much calories in me as I could because I was burning so many. But when I retired, I all of a sudden realized I had no idea how to be healthy as a normal person, kind of quote normal person, as a non-athlete. And I tried, every fad diet out there, and none of them worked. And then I started a food journal and an exercise log, and realized where I was making all these mistakes. But I really wanted to take that gymnastics mentality of counting every fall and seeing what I was doing wrong so that I could get better. So that's kind of what I did. And I began to really focus on women's health and wellness, and really this idea that women need to make their health a priority, because it's not just for them, but it's for our families as well. And oftentimes we're putting that on the back burner to kind of take care of everybody else. And I know there's probably a lot of parents watching right now that are saying, yes, we do that every single day. And it's hard not to, because we want to take care of everyone else. But that kind of started me on that road. And in 2010, I launched my company devoted to women's health and wellness. And I had started a foundation for children's health as well. And I was involved in this. And when it came time for my doctor's appointment, it was about actually this time of year. I was doing a lot with breast cancer awareness and the different children's cancer awareness and different things. So we were talking about that on a radio show that I was hosting at the time. And I remember on the radio saying, yes, absolutely, we need to go. Don't miss your doctor's appointments. Early detection saves lives. And I called my doctor up the next day because I was going to be out of town, and I was going to cancel my appointment and put it off for a little bit, a few months, maybe to the next year, it'll be fine. And I had second thoughts. I had just realized I wasn't walking the walk. I wasn't doing what I was telling other women to do. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to be in town, but can I just get in for the first available appointment? And it happened to be that morning. He said, well, I've got an opening right now. Someone just canceled. Can you come over? And it was at that appointment that they found a baseball-sized cyst on my left ovary. And that kind of snowballed into a whirlwind of tests and scans. And by January 2011, I was waking up from surgery, finding out that I had ovarian cancer. And that changed my world for sure.
I think whenever we hear the word cancer, it's pretty heavy. We can talk about all your accolades as an athlete, the odds it takes. What are the odds with the cancer you had? A baseball-sized cyst. How bad was the cancer, and what did you do after the surgery to ultimately?
I think for me, leading up to the surgery, I kind of break it down into phases in my own mind. And I think of that as kind of the first phase. And I always hesitate to say that it was the worst part, because there's nothing easy about a cancer diagnosis and treatment. It's all tough. But that first phase, I think, coming from that athletic background where I literally used my body to be that tool to become the best in the world at something. And now all of a sudden I had no control, no idea what was going on, so many questions and so few answers. And so I think I just had this really difficult mentality at that point. I didn't have any control. And then after the surgery, I found out it was a rare form of ovarian cancer, but they had caught it early. Going to that appointment saved my life. I got the prognosis was good, but I would need to go through a pretty aggressive chemotherapy regimen, and that would give me the best chance of non-recurrence. And so I think at that point, we kind of laid out this plan, just like you would strategize your next 10 years of training in order to get to your goal. We kind of had this strategy, and I knew the small things that I could be in control of. It wasn't much. We didn't know exactly where we'd end up at the finish line, but I could work on protein and hydration and trying to get healthier after the surgery as I moved into chemo. And I kind of fell back on a lot of those lessons that I learned through gymnastics. Again, it was the importance of teamwork. Very different team, a lot more medical staff on this team, but not just the medical. It is friends and family, coworkers, community, neighbors, people willing to pitch in and help out at every turn. And we cannot forget that is a huge part of our team. Mm-hmm. But the goal setting skills and all of those things came flooding back for me, and I think really helped during that time. Chemotherapy was absolutely the toughest thing I've ever had to do.
Wow. I mean, it's in some ways not surprising, but we think about your path in life and what you've walked through, just to hear that is pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing. And then when you declared cancer-free.
Oh, say go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. So this summer I've been cancer-free for 9 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Very lucky, very fortunate.
Rashad, chime in.
No, that's all. I'm hearing your story, and it really is inspiring. One. And it reiterates some of the truths that I've been able to hold on to in life, So like just hearing you talk, I hear you explain in my own words that, some of the things in life that you dedicate yourself to succeed, often they're simple, but they're not easy. It's simple. It's very simple to work hard, right? That's simple, but it's not easy all the time. And, you kind of, he brought up something about people seeing often the results more so, and I consider that like the red carpet. I have 9 nephews, and so they all have this idea because their uncle is older than them, and they see the red carpet. They literally see me pull up on TV shows or Win and Dance with the Stars or writing books, and they're like, "Yo, man, my uncle's off the hook. He could just do anything." But they're seeing the red carpet effect. They didn't see all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. They were too young. And so I have to reinstill that into them and remind them that this doesn't just happen. And I can only think, I was thinking as a professional athlete, NFL player, I did some numbers. I don't know if you ever done this, but I did some numbers one day about the average play is 4 seconds. And then I thought about, okay, I played 8 years, 16 seasons. 8 years, 16 games each season. And there's on average 60 plays per game. So long story short, I'm doing all these numbers to figure out how many minutes did I actually play in an actual football game versus how many hours did I put in order to be in position to make a play. And so for you being an Olympian, once every 4 years, the amount of pressure it must have, I know I'm at least going to get another play in 20 seconds. Screwed up, you know what I mean? I'm going to get one of them right. But for you, 4 years of training, and what if you get sick that day? This is it. And I can't imagine handling that type of pressure, but the poise you have and what you took from it and translating that to what made you such a successful person and woman in the world, and then taking those attributes and then making that and using that to overcome cancer and conquer it. It's a brilliant story that I'm loving to hear, and it inspires me both in my physical world, but also my spiritual world mentally, to be able to grasp, and overcome, especially with things that comes with diseases. So I appreciate your story. I really just want to.
No, thank you. I'm so excited to be able to hear your story, Rashad. I already told you before we started. I've already ordered your books for my son because you're such a positive role model, and he's a voracious reader, so I'm excited for him to do that. But I am such an underdog fan because I was the underdog. I was too small. I was that kid that probably would have been bullied had I had not found gymnastics. That was my safe haven. I didn't really fit in at school, but I could just kind of keep my blinders on, do my work, and then get to the gym where I felt comfortable and kind of among people that kind of had the same mindset as me towards gymnastics and towards sport. So I was lucky to find that. But I love hearing your story because I do think it's so important for kids especially, but adults too. We need to hear those stories. We need to consistently be inspired by others because sometimes, well, I would say often, we get wrapped into our own little worlds and we do feel like we're alone in the struggles that we have on a day-to-day basis. And everybody's got something, you know, whether it is a health issue or something else that they're facing, everybody has something that they're dealing with. So to hear your story and how you really took that on mentally and physically and really not only stopped at NFL. I mean, anyone could make the NFL, check the box, call it a day, and that's amazing. But then to go on after that, to become this best-selling author, to Dancing with the Stars. I mean, I'm a big fan, so good job there. But it is amazing, I think, when anyone, and I think athletes, when you retire, you go through this vacuum of not knowing who you are without that sport. Who am I without football? Who am I without gymnastics? But to reinvent yourself and to really understand that sport does not define you. We are not just defined by the things that we enjoy doing or that we're good at doing. We get to be in charge of what defines us. And so if you have a food allergy, that does not define you. Cancer is not going to define me. And I think that's such a positive message. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, on the note of Rashad's story, I mean, yes, folks, he won Dancing with the Stars, and you probably know that because everyone and their mom watches that show. But I'm just going to say this. I'm really fascinated. Really, I mean, Rashad, you're a philosopher. I mean, I think all these things are reflections of insights you've seen in life. I know you're a spiritual person, but if you could just tell us about, you know, your work as an author, I'm just floored and fascinated by it. The children's series, which I'm excited to share with my son. But really, I'd love to just talk about the If in Life, that book, the philosophy behind it, and really what you just tell us about what you've done after after football, because that's always the thing with athletes, right? It's like, oh yeah, they don't play sports anymore, so life's over. And you are probably one of the best examples of, oh no, I've just gotten started, literally. So lay it on us.
Yeah, and that's seriously, man, I really do feel like life has just started. I tell people jokingly all the time, playing in the NFL to me, it was like I snuck inside of a VIP party, and I didn't have a wristband, and I was just waiting for the bouncer to kick me out, and it took them 8 years to do it. That's all. But it's a continuation of college. You go to college, try to figure out what you want to do, and I feel like the Lord has just blessed me with 8 extra years to figure it out. And through those 8 years, I've learned that, you know, I love people, man. I really do. I studied psychology and sociology in college. I got my honorary doctorate degree in humanities. I'm currently going back to get my license in premarital and marital counseling. I love people. I moved to LA to now get into TV acting, hosting, commentating, finding my space. And you know, there's a quote that is, I think it does a good job of explaining myself. It's not a quote I live by. It's a quote that is written in such a way that I feel like if somebody was an understudy just watching me, it would inspire them to write these words about me. And it's, the master in art of living shows little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his love and his religion. He simply pursues everything he does with excellence, leaving others to decide, is he working or is he playing? But to him, he's always doing both. And for me, that is truly how I live my life. You will never know if I'm playing around or if I'm working, because they really look identical. And and I feel like I've been fortunate enough to have a filter mentally when life's thrown at me, how to put it in compartments. And it helps me stay poised, stay calm, stay people oriented, think futuristic. And since football, man, if football is the only thing I've been identified with, I'm a failure in my books. I've always said that. It's a game. But writing is something I was inspired to do because I struggled academically. I had a 0.6 reading comprehension deficit. So that was one of the things that I was told I wouldn't be able to do either, is write a book. And I'm the type of guy, I'm quirky. I'm very philosophical. So, I would go to Barnes and Noble and see all the book titles and see all the magazines and go to different genres. And I would open up books. And this is something that I do for fun. I encourage people to do this one day. Go to a local bookstore, open up a book, read on the index, just the chapter title. From there, go assume what the chapter is about and discuss it with your friends, what you think is going to be about. Then read it, because I think it opens up the intention of your reading a lot more. And then you really truly have an engaging conversation with people. I feel like books, if you want to hide something from people, put it in a book, right? I think as an author, I've given so many secrets inside of a book that I probably don't even have time to tell people directly. And so books is something that I've been intrigued to pick up. Autobiographies, what do people have to say? Because they say things inside of them that are very articulate, thoughtful, read over, edited, purposeful. Twitter, sometimes you just blah it out. But a book is so methodical. And I wanted to inspire kids, especially young boys, that, coming from the position, I always say it's nothing special about me as the position, but the position as a professional athlete playing man amongst man sports, American Gladiator, NFL, brute, built to run through walls. And then parlay that into the most gentle dance of Dancing with the Stars. Like, I love playing polar opposites, right? And the more I do in life that is not necessarily successful, but even the attempt, it allows me to knock on different doors and open up conversations with people I never would have met because of a desire, right? And so, the If in Life is a book I wrote, and it's a play off words. The if in life. When you spell out life, Life, E is in the middle of life. So I wanted to discuss it. I parked in that word for 15 chapters, showing the major if points in my life. And also it really, really begs the reader to find their own. And it became a New York Times bestseller, which opened up the doors for a kids series. That's going great. Arcade and the Triple T Token is, I'm floored. I'm really amazed by this for 1 second, because this is a fictional book. I'm making up stuff. And then to watch a kid dress up like Arcade for Halloween, like I got my hair orange, like on purpose for all the books and stuff. And, to see a kid believe in this character that I created, and then watching it, hopefully here soon, conversations turn into a cartoon. And I'm amazed that this is all made up. And the 15 minutes that I sat around on my blackboard and just dream, I'm watching it come to life, and it's becoming really fun.
We're going to open it up to questions, because
That's amazing.
I don't want to hog all the fun. I don't want to hog all the fun, but I think what's super, super cool is, to start with, look, this is America. We love football. To be like, this guy's a running back, not a lineman, a running back, and he had asthma and a weight problem, and he became a football player. But the fact that you struggled with just aptitude and writing and stuff, and the fact that you relish in now writing and telling stories. That's something that really, you're doing it with your work and stuff, but that's, I even in my own mind, I think about, this guy's like this physical specimen, whatever. But now, I mean, to be told like you can't write a story, you're not smart. You're not smart. And you're writing books and you're creating things. All right, I'm not hogging all the fun. We're going to some questions. Here's a question from Ashley Smith. She asked it a while ago. She's probably dying for an answer. My 11-year-old son has allergies and asthma, is with me, and wow, Rashad, you were truly inspirational. And it's true, Shannon, that anything is possible. At 10 years old, my son earned his black belt in Hapkido last year. The youngest student, we couldn't be more proud. Yeah, let's do that. We feel such a connection listening to you sharing your stories. And I guess it's just a comment, but we feel very fortunate to be a part of this session. Well, you know what? First of all, congrats to your son for black belt in Hapkido. Hang on, that just hit
awesome.
me. That's
I need a bodyguard.
Seriously, it's been a while since he's been on the field. So yeah, hey, you know what? 10. Okay, here's a question from Mackenzie. I'm assuming it's for both you guys. What is your go-to song when you need to get pumped up? Shannon, let's start with you.
Eye of the Tiger. Got to get rocky. You have to get rock. Yeah.
That's a good one. I'll probably go with either Queen or AC/DC. One of any of their top songs.
AC/DC. What's the AC/DC song? I'm curious.
Oh yeah, Back in Black.
Fair enough. I'm into it. AC/DC. I'm just picturing you as a kid in like small town Virginia listening to AC/DC.
Hey, listen, I tell people I'm a country boy to the fullest. I play this thing faithfully. I'm a full country boy. So
nice.
Country ain't not
You're
country.
planning that, folks. I promise you, that was arm's length. I know this guy is good. This guy's gunning to be a host. I could be replaced next year. Here we go. This is from Beatrice D. Did you ever question at any point in your career, is it my sickness that's causing me this and I'm being too hard on myself, or it's my fault and becoming depressed or really sad? I think, mental state is huge with these kinds of adversities. Rashad, let's start with you.
Repeat that. I couldn't hear that. It went in and out.
Sure. So, at any point in your career, is it my sickness that's causing me this and I'm being too hard on myself? Or is it my fault and I'm depressed or really sad? So I guess really just addressing the mental struggle with the issues that you had growing up.
Yeah, I blame myself a lot of times, when I was a kid, and it's when you're young, it's tough because you don't know what to hold on to. You don't know what to grasp onto. You don't have the education and knowledge. And so I beat myself up along the way. I really have. But the older I got, I really started to mellow out, and I was fortunate to have people around me believe in me before I knew who I was. And so whoever asked that question, I hope, that you find, and everybody find 10 minutes out of the day to go encourage somebody that they can become more than what they believe. You'll be surprised with the endorphins that's released because of somebody's belief will really inspire you, truly.
Yeah, I think, just being kind, there's a pay it forward, right? To just sending that good thought out there. Shannon, if you want to jump in on that too.
Well, just on the tail end, I would say you really do. You never know when that one word or that one act in the smallest of moments may truly give someone hope. You may give them the strength to keep going. So as much as we can continue to encourage, you never know when someone's having a really rough time, a really bad day. So trying to come from that positive place and give them that encouraging word, or even just doing something small is such a big blessing for them. On the mental portion, I think I had to learn over time to not beat myself up about things. And usually I would just start crying. And I feel like my coaches and my parents, I feel like it was kind of like having the bumpers on. They kind of helped channel that energy and that frustration a lot of times to a positive place. So yes, you can cry about missing on the balance beam, or you can get up and try again. So which is it going to be? Are you going to cry about it and get tired and fatigued, and then you're really not going to do any better? Or do you want to listen to the correction and get up and try to do it again, and then again after that, and again after that? And it took a while for me to kind of understand, but I think now, finally, in my 40s, I am understanding that it's not about what has happened as much as what happens next.
Okay. I mean, and I think something to just, again, really highlight there is that understanding that takes time. Like, okay, yeah, don't quit, but it's hard, and like and we find these lessons. They go on long after the field of competition.
I will say, last thing I will say, because this is something good to hold on to. Learn to fall in love with the process more than the outcome, and you'll probably supersede your original goal. Truly learn to fall in love with the process.
I'm gonna write that down.
Please, yeah.
I think it's like, you can't tell if you're working or playing. Guys, I think we're starting to get down to the last couple minutes. I just want to try and get through a question or two. This is a question about competition. What would you suggest for siblings who mostly just want to beat each other instead of finding their own individual skills, both with life-threatening food allergies as well? So, what's the difference between being competitive versus just wanting to be a better performer, athlete?
You asking the wrong person. I compete all the time. I love it. I found a way to compete in everything, but like, and keeping the goal in mind too, right? Keeping the goal in mind, like no matter what, NFL players, we play against each other, and I'm trying to win. But once it's over, I really remember the overarching theme of life. Like, don't lose life in competition either.
I think for me, I'm super competitive in absolutely everything. Right now, I'm attempting to continue to learn to golf, and it's so frustrating. I can't even tell you. But I guess what I have to constantly remind myself is I'm not competing against someone else. I'm always competing against myself, and how can I be better? And that's the way it was in gymnastics. And I truly believe that's one of the reasons why I was successful. I didn't watch the leaderboard. It was always about how can I compete to the best of my abilities every time out? And sometimes I would have the greatest routine and not win, but I knew I could feel really good about that. Sometimes I did not compete well. And honestly, I don't know if the ribbon or the medal meant quite as much to me, because I knew that it was because others may have missed, not because I had done particularly well. So I think Rashad is exactly right. Remembering the process, but understanding competition, the goal, not just the outcome, but what is the goal of the competition, and then after it's done, what can you learn from it and move on? And one of my favorite things to remind my kids is, competition, because they're kind of afraid to compete against their friends because they like their friends and they don't want their friends to feel bad if they don't win. And they're so sweet, but I keep telling them competition is not about you being against them. It's about going out and you guys all do the best you can, and then you all cheer for each other. It's okay. You can be competitive and be friends at the same time.
Yes, fact.
All right, guys. So we are down to less than 2 minutes left. I want to turn this last question also into a parting thought. The last question obviously for both you guys. Both Shannon and Rashad were given 100, like a million reasons to quit, a million speed bumps. Do they have a mantra or something that helps pick themselves back up every time after they fail? And also, just, a parting thought, because I feel like you guys have really discovered fantastic strategies for overcoming obstacles, not just success, because it's not about outcome. It's, correctly, I think Rashad's like, it's about finding a winning process. So once again, a mantra that you guys have for when you fail, and also just something that, a tool for the folks out there who have food allergies and parents and love people who are handling food allergies for loved ones. Parting thought there.
Well, I gave one of my mantras earlier, but I will say this too. Don't let anybody define you, because if you do, they will. And once they define you, You will spend your life trying to live up to their definition until you reach the level of maturity and realize that that wasn't right. So just don't let anybody define you. You set your own tempo, you set your own standard, and have sound people around you. Try not to be the smartest person in the room. And I think a lot of life's secrets will be revealed to you.
Okay. All right. Shannon.
I'm going to go with, I always come back to baby steps. I think sometimes we have this goal or this idea of how big an accomplishment with regards to even food allergies or overcoming cancer or trying to play in the NFL. They can become such huge goals that you feel like giving up. It's too much. It's too big. So I always go back to baby steps. Getting to the Olympic Games is a 10-year process, or at least it was in gymnastics. It was a 10-year process. You have to take those baby steps. And so I think for those, and again, the parents that I know that are dealing with severe food allergies in their children, it's baby steps. It's what can I do to win the day today? What can I do tomorrow to win that day? What are those baby steps? What are those small things that I can truly accomplish, truly handle in order to get to that greater outcome? And so sometimes when we begin to get overwhelmed and feel like there's just nothing more we can do, we get tired, we get exhausted, just going back to those baby steps and knowing that if there's one small thing you can do today, that's still a great step forward.
Man, well, guys, it's kind of crazy because I really don't. I could keep going. I could really keep going with this. And it's because I do enjoy wearing a suit. It's a nice change of pace for me. But I just want to say, it's true. Knowledge is power. And for both of you who, look, we're in a world where it's like, who are you? What have you done? Let me read your resume. You've had this great success, right? A lot of red carpet moments, a lot of Instagram post moments, right? But the fact that you guys are sharing all these insights, sharing all these strategies, and really turning that into real purpose, you're both very, very kind people for doing that. You're empowering people. It's awesome to hear that stuff. It's just life affirming. It's really great. It's really, really powerful. And you guys are like super awesome. I feel like, in this kind of world we're in this business, people are like, well, what's that person really like? And granted, we just started talking for the last hour virtually, but I can tell to the audience, these two are genuine, kind people. And being kind is something that my wife and I so stress about, in raising our son. Be kind, be kind. It's a key to success, life success. That's it. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Fair. And for a little twist, Rashad, we would love for you to close us out with a little ditty on that guitar there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You got me in trouble, huh? Pulling this Hey, yeah. Pick up different arts and crafts. It's one thing I did in the league every single off season. I picked up a new art and craft. The first off season, guitar. The second, magic tricks. The next, poetry, Olympic style fencing. So pick up just different art. It's fun. What kind of tune y'all want? Got the vocals.
I know. I mean,
nope.
I'm going to do you a favor and not go that route.
Sorry, my audio is failing.
Oh, you said too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thank you, Fair, so much for everything y'all are doing. Y'all are really changing the world one day at a time. And don't ever underestimate giving good quality to people. And I want to say thank you two, especially because a lot of times we don't give roses while they still can smell it, right? We want to wait until it's too late. And so a lot of people out here are waiting for somebody to inspire. A lot of people are waiting for somebody to make the first step. And so if you're an innovator, if you care about people, be the first to do it and people will follow you. live a life worth mimicking, because somebody's always watching you.
Love that.
Nonstop. Shannon, any parting things from you? I know we just kind of said bye, but we're just still going. Anything else you want to share with our audience before we say bye?
I'm just so thankful to be a part of this group and everything that you all are doing. So I'm very excited for what's to come, for the future, and I hope that everyone out there watching, tell your friends and be that kind voice for them, be that encouragement, be that inspiration for them as well. And like Rashad said, have those people around you, put people around you that are really going to inspire you to do and be your very best.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll say this seriously, you do. The pleasure was mine. The pleasure was mine. This was fun. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.